Hawaii, with its breathtaking landscapes and vibrant culture, is home to many ancient legends. One of the most eerie and widely believed tales is that of the Night Marchers. These spirits, said to be the ghosts of ancient Hawaiian warriors, are said to roam the islands under the cover of darkness, following their ancient paths. The legend of the Night Marchers traces back centuries to the time when Hawaii was ruled by kings and chiefs. According to the stories, these warriors were not just skilled fighters, but also highly respected protectors of sacred lands. After battles, they would return to their sacred grounds to rest and, in some cases, to protect them from any who dared to trespass. The Night Marchers are believed to appear on certain nights, especially when the moon is full or the air feels unusually still. Locals claim to hear the sound of distant drums, followed by the faint rustle of leaves and the sound of footsteps, many footsteps, echoing across the land. These are the sounds of the spirits, marching in formation. The legends often say they are marching to a sacred site or a burial ground, where they will rest before returning to the afterlife. If you happen to encounter them, it is said you must not look them in the eye. Those who do may be cursed, or worse. The most terrifying part of the legend is that these Night Marchers are not harmless. They're warriors who were once fiercely protective of the sacred lands they defended in life. Now in death, they continue to guard those same places, and they will attack anyone who crosses their path. Some say that you can feel the presence of the Night Marchers before you even see them. A cold chill in the air, a sudden pressure in the chest, or a strange sense of dread. These are said to be the signs that you are in their presence. It's not just the eerie sounds of their march that are unsettling. The spirits themselves are said to be glowing figures clad in the ancient warrior attire, with eyes that seem to burn with a fierce light. As unsettling as it is, the Night Marchers are not a tale to be taken lightly. Many Hawaiian families avoid certain paths and roads after dark, especially those near ancient burial grounds or sacred sites. For those who know the stories, the night becomes a time when the spirits of the past may return to walk once more. The legend of the Night Marchers is deeply rooted in Hawaiian history and culture, intertwined with the ancient beliefs and traditions that have shaped the islands for centuries. These spirits are thought to be the souls of warriors from Hawaii's pre-contact period, particularly the ancient chiefs and soldiers who served in battles during the era of Hawaiian monarchy. The Hawaiian people believed in a complex spiritual world where the forces of nature, gods, and ancestral spirits all had significant roles. The Night Marchers, or Huakai Po, in Hawaiian, were considered the embodiment of these beliefs, carrying the spirits of revered ancestors who were called to defend sacred lands after death. According to the ancient traditions, warriors who died in battle or while protecting sacred sites were thought to join the ranks of the Night Marchers, continuing their duty as protectors even in the afterlife. It was believed that they were spiritually bound to these lands and that their power and spirit could never truly be extinguished. Even today, many Hawaiians hold these traditions close, with some claiming that the presence of the Night Marchers represents the strength and honor of their ancestors. The Night Marchers are typically seen in areas where royal Hawaiian families once resided or near sacred burial grounds. These areas, considered kapu, sacred, were places where only certain individuals were allowed to go, and breaking that taboo was considered a severe offense, potentially inviting the wrath of the spirits. As a result, encountering the Night Marchers while trespassing on such grounds was believed to bring about immediate punishment. Throughout Hawaiian history, the rituals of warfare and honor were deeply sacred. These warriors were not only skilled fighters, but also practitioners of spirituality. The sounds of the march, the rhythmic drumming, the chant-like calls, and the stomping of feet were seen as part of the spiritual power the warriors carried. The march itself symbolized a return to these warriors' spiritual roots, reinforcing the idea that no matter how much time passed, the warrior's sacred duty would never end. In Hawaiian belief, the line between life and death is not as definitive as it is in other cultures. Many ancient Hawaiians believed that spirits lingered after death, either helping or haunting the living depending on how they had lived in the past. In this context, the night marchers weren't just ghosts. They were an extension of the ancient Hawaiian worldview, where spirits had influence over the living world, acting as protectors or avengers. It is important to note that these beliefs still hold significance among some modern Hawaiians, even in contemporary society. The stories are passed down through generations, not only as a way to honor ancestors, but also as a reminder of the spiritual connection between the living and the dead. The idea that a group of warriors could return from the past to defend their sacred grounds reflects Hawaii's deep respect for its history and the spirits that once shaped the islands. Many also believe that the night marchers can be heard at certain locations where intense battles once took place, such as those on Oahu or the Big Island. These locations, rich with ancient history, are still seen as places where the past is alive, and the spirits of the warriors may still march. Over the centuries, there have been numerous reports of people encountering the night marchers. These encounters, often told through the word of mouth and later documented by locals and visitors, continue to add to the mystery and terror surrounding the spirits of the Hawaiian warriors. One of the most commonly reported experiences is the sighting of a group of glowing figures, often dressed in traditional warrior attire, marching in formation across remote Hawaiian landscapes. Their appearances are usually accompanied by a distinctive sound, deep rhythmic drumming that echoes through the air, along with the sharp sound of footsteps, which some say feel as though they are vibrating the earth itself. The warriors are often described as carrying weapons such as spears or clubs, and their ghostly forms are said to be surrounded by an eerie light, sometimes green or red, that flickers and fades as the marchers pass by. These sightings are not limited to remote areas, but also take place near ancient Hawaiian sites, especially around the island's burial grounds, which are considered sacred. In fact, the presence of the night marchers is said to occur more frequently when someone unwittingly steps onto or disturbs these sacred sites. It is believed that this disruption of sacred land awakens the spirits, prompting them to rise and begin their march, warning trespassers of the consequences of their actions. Some accounts tell of people seeing the night marchers while traveling on roads and trails that are far from the beaten path. These roads were often used by Hawaiians for ceremonial purposes or to reach significant cultural sites, meaning that they, too, are tied to the ancient spiritual landscape. The most infamous reports come from people who have been traveling at night, particularly when conditions are foggy or the moon is full, and claim to have seen the ghostly procession appear in the distance, growing closer with each passing moment. In one notable encounter, a group of tourists traveling on the Big Island in the early 2000s claimed to have witnessed a march near the Kilauea volcano. The tourists, who had heard of the legend but were skeptical of its truth, described seeing a line of glowing figures dressed in traditional warrior garb. They reported hearing chanting and the steady thump of drums, which grew louder as the marchers approached. According to their account, they immediately felt an overwhelming sense of dread and an almost physical pressure that compelled them to leave the area as quickly as possible. When they looked back, the figures had vanished into the mist. Another famous encounter occurred in the 1970s near the Pu'ukohola Heiau National Historic Site, a site of great historical significance. A local Hawaiian man was walking along a trail when he encountered the night marchers. He described feeling an intense coldness and a sudden, powerful sense of being watched. When he turned around, he saw the procession of warriors, their faces obscured by shadow, but their movements unmistakable. The man reported hearing the sound of chanting and the beating of drums, but as he tried to flee, he was overtaken by the marchers and felt as if they were following him. The moment he crossed over a stream, the sensation abruptly stopped and the night marchers disappeared. In some stories, those who encounter the night marchers feel an overwhelming compulsion to kneel or lie face down, as it is believed that showing respect or submission can spare one from harm. It is said that those who fail to do so may face the wrath of the marchers, often in the form of illness or bad luck in the days that follow. In the most severe cases, there are reports of people who claim to have suffered serious consequences after not respecting the night marchers, though these stories often remain unverified. The locations where the night marchers are said to appear are deeply significant. Many are tied to historical events, such as ancient battles or royal gatherings, and are regarded as places where the boundaries between the living and the dead are particularly thin. In some cases, it is believed that these encounters are not just random, but that the marchers have a specific purpose, sometimes to protect sacred sites, other times to remind people of the ancient laws that govern the islands. The legend of the night marchers has persisted over generations, and the sightings continue to this day. Whether real or part of the rich cultural tapestry of Hawaiian myth, these encounters offer a glimpse into a world where the past, present, and future are interwoven, and where the spirits of ancestors are ever vigilant in guarding the island's sacred lands. The legend of the night marchers is more than just a tale of ghostly apparitions. It is deeply embedded in the cultural and spiritual fabric of Hawaii. The night marchers represent the powerful connection between the past and the present, a reminder of the island's rich history and the ongoing reverence for the spirits of ancestors. In Hawaiian culture, ancestors are revered, and their spirits are believed to remain connected to the land. This belief is rooted in the concept of mana, which refers to a spiritual energy or power that is found in people, objects, and the land itself. The night marchers, as spirits of revered warriors and leaders, embody this mana and are seen as protectors of sacred spaces. Their march is not merely a haunting, but rather a manifestation of the spiritual energy that flows through the islands. The idea that the night marchers are guardians of sacred land is significant. In ancient Hawaii, there were strict rules governing who could access certain lands, particularly burial sites or ceremonial grounds. These areas were considered so sacred that they were protected by powerful spiritual forces, including the spirits of the warriors who had died in battle. These warriors are said to continue their duty as protectors, ensuring that only those who are worthy or respectful of the land may pass through unharmed. The night marchers are not only an important part of Hawaiian folklore, but also a reflection of the broader Polynesian belief in the enduring power of the past. In many Polynesian cultures, the spirits of ancestors are thought to be ever present, watching over the living and ensuring that traditional customs and respect for the land are upheld. This idea is central to the cultural identity of the Hawaiian people, and the night marchers serve as a constant reminder of this deep connection to the ancestral past. Despite their terrifying nature, the night marchers also symbolize the strength, honor, and discipline of the Hawaiian warriors. These warriors were not just soldiers, but highly respected figures in Hawaiian society who held great responsibility in their communities. Their spirits are thought to continue their protective role, not just in the afterlife, but in the everyday lives of the people of Hawaii. This connection between the living and the dead helps maintain a sense of continuity, preserving the values and traditions that have shaped the islands for centuries. One of the key elements that make the night marchers so culturally significant is their role in maintaining the kapu system, the ancient Hawaiian code of laws. The kapu system governed many aspects of Hawaiian life, including sacred practices, rituals, and the use of land. Violating these laws was believed to bring severe consequences, both in life and in death. The night marchers are seen as enforcers of the kapu, ensuring that the rules are respected and that the sacredness of the land is preserved. The legends and encounters with the night marchers also carry a moral lesson, particularly about the importance of respect for the land, respect for the ancestors, and respect for the traditions that have been passed down through generations. In this sense, the night marchers serve not only as figures of fear, but also as symbols of the values that have been central to Hawaiian culture for centuries. In modern times, the legend of the Night Marchers has evolved, with the spirits of the warriors continuing to captivate both locals and visitors alike. While some may view the stories as mere folklore or entertainment, they still hold deep meaning for many Hawaiians. The belief in the Night Marchers serves as a cultural touchstone, reminding people of the importance of honoring the land and the ancestors who came before them. The continuing reports of sightings only add to the mystique, keeping the legend alive and ensuring that the spirits of the past remain an integral part of the present. Today, the legend of the Night Marchers is celebrated in various forms of media, from local stories to films and books, but its true significance goes beyond entertainment. It is a symbol of the enduring connection between Hawaii's past and its future, and a reminder of the powerful forces that continue to shape the islands in both spiritual and cultural ways. As long as people continue to walk the lands of Hawaii, the Night Marchers will remain a part of the island's living history, guarding sacred places and ensuring that the respect for the land and its traditions is never forgotten. The legend of the Night Marchers has endured for generations, becoming one of Hawaii's most captivating and mysterious tales. While many people who live on the islands accept the stories as a part of their heritage, others remain skeptical. Regardless of belief, the Night Marchers continue to be a source of fascination, and their stories are passed down with reverence and intrigue. Throughout the years, there have been various theories about the nature of the Night Marchers, with some suggesting that they are simply a product of overactive imaginations or a way to explain strange occurrences in the night. Others believe that the phenomenon is linked to environmental factors, such as natural phenomena or weather patterns that could create eerie sounds or visual effects that resemble ghostly figures. However, these explanations have not been able to dispel the enduring belief that the Night Marchers are real, especially given the numerous personal encounters and testimonies from those who have experienced them firsthand. One common theme that emerges from these encounters is the feeling of being watched. Witnesses often report a sudden and overwhelming sense of dread, sometimes accompanied by an inexplicable coldness or a quiet stillness that seems to settle over the area. In many instances, the sounds of the marchers, rhythmic drumming, the shuffling of feet, and the eerie chanting are heard, but the figures themselves are often too elusive to fully capture. The sense of unease is so intense that many who encounter the Night Marchers speak of a deep primal fear that they cannot easily shake off, even long after the event. The importance of cultural preservation cannot be overstated in understanding the Night Marchers' place in Hawaii's history. The legend is a reminder of the connection between the Hawaiian people and their ancestors, as well as the sacred nature of the land. For many Hawaiians, the Night Marchers are a way to honor the past, maintaining a link to traditions that have been passed down for centuries. The tale of the Night Marchers helps keep the cultural identity of Hawaii alive, ensuring that future generations remember the spiritual and ancestral ties that continue to shape the islands. Some Hawaiian elders emphasize that the Night Marchers should not be feared, but rather respected. They remind people that the warriors are not malevolent spirits. Rather, they are guardians of the sacred. To avoid their wrath, it is said, one must show proper respect by never crossing the paths of the marchers and by offering prayers or reverence if one should find oneself in their presence. The spiritual aspect of the legend highlights the importance of humility and respect for the land and the ancestors that shaped Hawaiian culture. The role of the Night Marchers also ties into the broader theme of mana, or spiritual power. In Hawaiian thought, mana is a powerful force that can be found in both the land and its people. The Night Marchers, being part of this spiritual energy, represent a manifestation of this force and their presence is a reminder of the balance that exists between the living and the spiritual world. For many, the night marchers symbolize the ongoing cycle of life, death, and the passage of time, as well as the enduring spirit of those who came before. While some may see the night marchers as merely a folklore or a tale meant to frighten tourists, others believe that their existence is a profound reminder of the importance of cultural respect and the preservation of traditions. Their appearances, whether real or imagined, continue to evoke a sense of awe and wonder, ensuring that the legend remains a cherished part of Hawaiian identity. As long as Hawaii's cultural traditions are upheld, the night marchers will continue to march through the hearts and minds of those who live on the islands and beyond. Whether one believes in the supernatural or not, the story of the night marchers will always stand as a testament to the enduring power of tradition, the sacredness of the land, and the spirits of those who protect it. The mystery of the night marchers remains unsolved, and perhaps it is meant to be that way. After all, some legends are not meant to be fully understood, but instead to be experienced and felt. For as long as Hawaii's hills and valleys stand, so too will the stories of the night marchers, echoing through the ages. The Oahu Community Correctional Center might look like just another prison from the outside, but what stands today on these 16 acres holds more than fences and concrete. Beneath its surface lies a history filled with war, death, and unrest. Layers of tragedy that many believe still echo through the halls. Long before the prison was built, this land was home to the early people of Oahu. Their traditions and way of life thrived for over 1,000 years. But in the late 1700s, everything changed. King Kamehameha, chief of the island of Hawaii, set out to unite the islands under one rule. In the battle that followed, hundreds of Oahu's warriors were driven off the cliffs of New Wanupali. Their deaths marked the end of a way of life, and the land was never the same again. More than a century later, the ground became the site of Oahu Prison, a place that carried its own dark reputation. From the year 1909 to the year 1947, 47 men were executed by hanging here. When the old prison was later torn down and replaced with the new facility, the past wasn't buried, it was built over. The room where the hangings once took place is now part of the current structure. Guards say the area next to it, known as the squad room, carries a heavy energy. Even when off duty, many avoid sleeping there. They describe strange feelings, like being watched or unable to relax, as if something unseen still lingers nearby. This land also holds ties to one of the darkest moments in American history. After the attack on Pearl Harbor in December of 1941, the area was used as a temporary cemetery. Halawa Cemetery held the remains of those lost during and after the war until the year 1947, when the bodies were moved. But some believe not everything was truly at rest. Over time, staff and inmates alike have reported strange feelings in certain areas, unexplained chills, footsteps in empty halls, and sudden bursts of fear. In this first part of the story, it's clear that the prison wasn't just built on land. It was built on layers of sorrow, violence, and death. From ancient battles to wartime tragedy to the executions of the past, the ground beneath this place is far from silent, and those who walk it today still feel what lies just below the surface. Inside the prison, things happen that no one can explain. Long after lights go out and the halls go quiet, strange sounds begin to stir. Inmates have spoken of hearing their cell doors rattle or swing open and then slam shut without anyone touching them. Others have heard footsteps just outside their doors, but when they look, no one is there. Some guards have dismissed it as nerves or stress, but these reports have continued for years. The strange events are not limited to noises. Some people working in the prison have said that the air changes suddenly in certain areas. A heavy feeling settles in, and a deep sense of unease takes over. It can feel like being watched or followed, even when completely alone. These moments pass quickly, but they leave people shaken. One of the most talked about parts of the prison is along a certain corridor. According to local tradition, this is believed to be a path followed by the night marchers, spirit warriors from Hawaiian legend. They are said to travel in straight lines, often along ancient routes. If disturbed, they are known to bring misfortune to those who cross their path. Some believe this spiritual pathway cuts through the upper part of the prison, and that the nightly disturbances are connected to it. In 2018, an environmental impact report looked into changes being made to the prison. It confirmed that the southwestern section of the property overlaps with the old Halawa Cemetery, the same burial ground used during and shortly after the Second World War. While the remains were moved in the year 1947, some believe the land still holds spiritual energy that has not faded. Those involved in the report shared stories they had heard from prison staff about unusual activity and the belief that it was tied to the land's former use as a cemetery. Dogs brought onto the property as part of security, where patrols often barked and growled at empty spaces. Handlers said the animals would fix their gaze on something invisible, refusing to move or calm down. To many, it felt like they were sensing something others could not see. These accounts, from footsteps and cell door sounds to animal reactions, have come from different people over many years. The prison may have been rebuilt and modernized, but something beneath it remains unchanged. And while some may try to explain the experiences away, others believe the spirits tied to the land have never truly left. Not all spirits in the prison are silent or hidden. Some are aggressive, and one of the most feared is known simply as the choking ghost. This presence is said to attack without warning, targeting both inmates and guards. The stories describe waking up in the middle of the night unable to breathe, as if invisible hands were wrapped around their throat. There is no clear pattern. Anyone can be a target, no matter their role in the prison. The earliest known case happened in the year 1944, when a guard was found dead in his bunk. There were no clear signs of struggle, and no one had heard anything unusual the night before. But over time, similar events continued to happen. People would wake up gasping for air, feeling pressure on their necks, only for the feeling to stop the moment they managed to sit up or call out. The presence doesn't only make itself known in beds or cells. One former guard told others that as he walked through a hallway, a ball rolled in front of him out of nowhere. He had no time to react before something unseen landed heavily on his shoulders. He described the weight as unbearable, like being crushed from above. He tried to ignore it, but as days went by, the weight never left. Climbing the stairs to his home became a struggle. He stopped eating, barely slept, and grew thinner every day. Even his dog sensed something was wrong, barking at empty corners of the room and refusing to go near certain spots in the house. The guard believed the spirit had followed him from the prison and latched onto him. It wasn't until he went to church and prayed that the weight was finally lifted. After that, he never walked alone through that part of the prison again. These stories spread quickly among staff. Even those who didn't believe in ghosts took precautions. Some refused to sleep in the squad room, while others made sure not to linger in certain areas, especially when they were alone. The fear wasn't just in their heads. It showed in how they moved, how they spoke, and how they looked over their shoulders, always expecting something to appear. The choking ghost and the force that brought that crushing weight left marks. Not physical ones, but ones that stayed in the memory of those who experienced them. The prison might be full of concrete and steel, but for many who worked there, what haunted them was not what they could see, but what they couldn't escape. Some believe that the most active spirits in the prison are not even tied to its more recent history. Long before the prison was built, the land itself held deep spiritual meaning. In ancient Hawaiian culture, there were sacred pathways used by warrior spirits known as night marchers. These ghostly processions are said to travel along specific routes, following the same paths they did when they were alive. According to those interviewed during a formal review of the prison's land, one of these ancient trails may pass through the upper part of the facility. Night marchers are not spirits to be ignored. Those who claim to have seen them describe hearing distant drums or chants, followed by a chilling stillness in the air. If a person is caught in their path, the only way to be spared is to lie face down in complete silence. Some guards and workers have said they felt a sudden urge to leave a hallway or step aside for no reason, only to later learn that others felt the same unease in the exact same spot. This part of the prison also overlaps with a piece of land that once served a very different purpose. From December of 1941 until the year 1947, a cemetery was located on the southwestern end of the property. Though the bodies were later exhumed and reburied elsewhere, many believed the energy of the dead never fully left. Strange noises, unexplained cold spots, and the feeling of being watched have all been reported by those who pass through that area. Another unsettling connection to the past lies outside the prison's gates. A Salvation Army thrift store now stands where executions once took place. Between the years 1909 and 1947, 47 men were hanged there. The execution site is long gone, but the building next to it remains part of the prison today. Inside, there is a squad room where guards are often scheduled to rest, yet few ever sleep there. People have described feelings of dread, restlessness, and sudden anxiety that come over them in that room. Some say it's impossible to relax. Others refuse to enter at all. There are no chains, no visible signs of what happened there decades ago, but the energy is still present. Something about that space feels wrong to those who know its history. Honolulu is known for its beauty, culture, and safety. But beneath the surface, there are places where the past still clings tightly to the land. The prison stands as one of those places. It holds more than just those behind bars. It holds memories, suffering, and the spirits of those who were never able to leave. The stories may be quiet now, but for many, the silence is only part of what makes this prison the most haunted place on the island. On the eastern edge of Hawaii's Big Island, there's a quiet stretch of land known as Mackenzie State Recreation Area. At first glance, this park feels peaceful, even calming. It's lined with tall ironwood trees, the ocean waves crash nearby, and the old lava cliffs offer a dramatic view of the sea. But once the sun starts to set, the air feels different. Locals know that this park holds more than just a pretty view. The story of Mackenzie Park begins back in the late 1850s. During this time, convicts from Oahu plantations were brought here to clear the thick rainforest. They worked for hours under the hot tropical sun, clearing rocks and cutting through thick vegetation. There was no clean drinking water, and the conditions were rough. Many of these workers died from heat and exhaustion, and their bodies were never officially recorded. It's believed that many were buried right in the forest, in unmarked graves scattered throughout the park. This quiet forest is now said to be home to their spirits. Some visitors report seeing figures in old prison clothing, standing among the trees at sunset. Others have said they've heard strange whispers while walking along the trail, even though no one else was around. Many of the people who visit the park during the day say the place feels heavy, like something is watching from the woods. Locals believe the forest still remembers the suffering that happened here. There's even a story tied to the park's name. The ironwood trees that now cover the land were planted by Albert J. Mackenzie, a forest ranger who helped shape the park. He died very young, at just 21 years old. His name still marks the entrance to the park, but many wonder if his spirit is one of the many that linger there. Some believe the pain and death that happened during the park's early days opened the door to something darker. Ghost stories have been passed down for generations in the Puna district, and this park is often at the center of them. The peaceful surface hides a much older, much deeper history. and that history still lingers in the wind, the trees, and the shadows. Deep within the quiet forest of Mackenzie State Recreation Area lies an ancient path known by locals as part of the King's Highway. Long before the park was ever created, this trail was used by native Hawaiians to travel across the island. Built from lava rock and worn down by centuries of use, the trail still exists today, winding through the trees and along the cliffs. Though it may look like a simple walking path now, many believe it holds a much deeper spiritual purpose. For generations, Hawaiians have told stories of the night marchers. These are said to be the restless spirits of ancient warriors. They were once part of royal processions, and even in death, their duty to protect and serve remains. The night marchers are known to follow old trails like this one, especially those tied to sacred places or old battle sites. The King's Highway is believed to be one of those paths. Witnesses claim that the night marchers appear late at night, usually during stormy weather or on nights with a full moon. People describe hearing rhythmic drumming and the sound of chanting, long before they ever see anything. When the spirits do appear, they're said to carry torches and move in single file, their eyes glowing and their expressions blank. They do not float, they walk. Some say the grass bends beneath their feet as they pass. Locals warn that if you ever come across the night marchers, you should not make eye contact. The belief is that anyone who stands in their path or disrespects their presence could suffer great misfortune, or worse. Many native Hawaiians say the only way to survive an encounter is to lie face down on the ground and show respect. Those with ancestors in the procession are believed to be spared. There have been several accounts of people who were walking through the park at night and suddenly felt frozen in place, overwhelmed by fear. Others say they heard distant war cries echoing through the trees, only for the sounds to disappear just as quickly as they began. A few have claimed to see flickering torchlight in the forest, with no people nearby and no trails that could explain the glow. Mackenzie Park is one of many places on the Big Island where the presence of the night marchers has been reported, but the combination of the old trail, the ocean cliffs, and the isolation makes it stand out. Even some of the locals refuse to walk near the path after sunset. For them, the ancient spirits are not just legends. They are a real part of the land, and they are still watching. Mackenzie State Recreation Area may appear calm during the day, but once the sun goes down, the forest takes on a very different feeling. For years, visitors have come forward with chilling accounts of strange sounds, unexplainable movements, and feelings that they were not alone. Many who have walked the forest trails after dark report hearing footsteps directly behind them, steady and clear, only to turn around and find no one there. These footsteps often follow them for several minutes, keeping pace even when they stop or change direction. Some have described the sensation of being watched, as though unseen eyes were tracking their every move through the trees. Campers who stay overnight in the park often share similar stories. Some say they have woken up to their tents being shaken violently in the middle of the night. Others describe hearing high-pitched screams coming from deep in the forest, screams that don't sound human. These sounds echo for a moment, then vanish completely, leaving behind a heavy silence that many find deeply unsettling. A few campers have told stories of seeing figures move quickly between the trees, almost too fast to follow. These shadow-like shapes don't make any noise and disappear before they can be clearly seen. Even more disturbing are the reports of eerie lights glowing in the forest at night. These lights don't behave like flashlights or fire. They hover low to the ground or drift between the ironwood trees, sometimes flickering, sometimes pulsing, but always moving without any clear source. Fishermen who work near the park's shoreline have their own stories. Some have seen strange campfires deep in the woods while fishing after dark. These fires appear bright and active from a distance, but when they get closer, there is nothing there. No people, no smoke, and no sign that a fire ever burned. A few fishermen have returned to their parked vehicles, only to find the doors open or their gear rearranged, even though no one else was around. Even photographs taken at the park have raised questions. Some visitors have noticed odd shapes or figures in their pictures that weren't there when they took them. A few have even discovered small objects, like rocks stacked in unusual patterns, showing up in the photos, but not seen in person. These encounters may seem like small things on their own, but together they paint a much darker picture of the park. Whether it's the energy left behind by the area's violent past or something older tied to the land itself, many believe there is a strong spiritual presence here, one that is not always friendly. While Mackenzie State Recreation Area is known for its haunting atmosphere and spiritual legends, there is also a darker, more violent chapter in its recent history. Several tragic events have taken place here, real crimes that have left permanent scars on the land and added to the park's unsettling reputation. In the year 1980, 2 young campers were attacked during the night. They had set up a tent deep in the woods, expecting a quiet stay. Instead, they were dragged from their tent and beaten. One of them died from the injuries, and the other was left permanently disabled. To this day, no one has been charged for this brutal crime, and it remains one of the most disturbing unsolved cases connected to the park. 13 years later, in 1993, a horrifying crime shook the community once again. 3 men kidnapped a 16-year-old girl near the park. She was assaulted and then thrown from the sea cliffs while still alive. The men later confessed to the crime and were brought to justice. The girl's body was never recovered from the waves, and locals still speak of that case with deep sadness. Then, in the year 2008, film crews came to Mackenzie Park to shoot scenes for a movie called The Tempest, starring Helen Mirren. What was supposed to be just another day of filming turned into a grim discovery when the crew found the body of a local surfer near the cliffs. He had been shot multiple times. Investigators later learned that the killer was the victim's own father. The emotional weight of that tragedy only deepened the park's dark history. But it's not only the violent crimes that make this park dangerous. The sea cliffs at Mackenzie are known for being extremely hazardous. Over the years, several fishermen and opihi pickers have lost their lives while working near the shoreline. These cliffs are steep, and the surf below is unforgiving. Many of those who have fallen were never found, their bodies taken by the rough ocean. Some locals believe that the park's deadly past isn't just about bad luck. They feel the land itself holds a kind of restless energy. The combination of historical loss, ancient legends, and real-life tragedy creates a place that feels both beautiful and heavy. It is not just a park, it is a place of memory, of sorrow, and for many, of spirits that have never left. Today, Mackenzie State Recreation Area stands as both a natural escape and a deeply haunted place. Locals and travelers alike continue to visit, but many do so with caution. Some come for the peace of the trees and cliffs. Others come hoping to witness something unexplainable. But almost everyone who spends time here agrees. There's something about Mackenzie Park that stays with you long after you've left. Just a few minutes outside downtown Honolulu sits the peaceful and misty Nu'uanu Valley. This valley is known for its cool breezes from the Ko'olau Mountains and its deep spiritual meaning. Long before buildings were raised here, Nu'uanu was a place where Hawaiian chiefs lived and gathered. It's also remembered as the site of a deadly and historic battle called Kalaleaka'anai, where King Kamehameha secured control of Oahu. Over time, homes were built in this area, but one house stands out, not only for its royal history, but for the strange and eerie stories tied to it. That house is the Queen Emma Summer Palace, also called Hanayakamalama. The name is said to mean the Southern Cross, or may refer to a caring goddess. The story of this house begins in the year 1848, when the wooden frame was built in Boston and shipped all the way around Cape Horn to Hawaii. Once it arrived, it was put together on a piece of land in the Nuuanu Valley. The property had been bought by John G. Lewis from the Hawaiian government. He built the house, but sold it just 2 years later, in the year 1850, to Keoneana, also known as John Young II. Young was a well-known figure, the son of John Young, a close advisor to King Kamehameha I, and the nephew of a high chiefess. John Young II gave the house a special name and turned it into a peaceful retreat. He kept the estate until the year 1857, when he gifted it to his niece, Emma Rook, who would later become Queen Emma. The land and the home held personal meaning for the family. Queen Emma, her husband King Kamehameha IV, and their young son, Prince Albert Edward, would spend time there together. The original house had just 6 rooms, a single floor, and a large porch with white Doric columns, giving it a look similar to the Greek Revival style. By the time Queen Emma received the house, the property was already rich with history. The cool air and quiet surroundings made it the perfect getaway from the hot and busy life in town. Over the years, Queen Emma would make changes to the home, including the addition of a large room in the back called the Edinburgh Room. She added this in the year 1869, in honor of the visit from the Duke of Edinburgh. It became a meaningful place, not just to Queen Emma, but to everyone who lived or visited there. But behind the peaceful gardens and wooden walls, stories began to build. People who passed by or spent time inside would begin to report strange feelings. There were whispers that the house was not completely empty, even when no one was inside. These whispers would grow louder over time, turning into a reputation that the palace had ghostly residents who never left. More would be revealed in the next part of the story, as we explore what happened after Queen Emma's time, and how the quiet home in Nuuanu became one of the most haunted places in Hawaii. After Queen Emma's passing, in the year 1885, the quiet that once filled Hanayakamalama became something else entirely. Though the estate had once been a peaceful retreat for Hawaiian royalty, the years that followed her death saw the property fall into disrepair. By the year 1890, the house had been sitting vacant for 5 years. Alexander J. Cartwright, the executor of Queen Emma's estate, described the home as needing costly repairs. He made the decision to put the estate up for auction. The Hawaiian government purchased the property, unsure what to do with it at first. Around this time, people began to notice that the empty home did not feel empty at all. In the early years of the 20th century, a local newspaper called the Hawaiian Star printed a story that drew even more attention to the property. In an article published in the year 1902, the house was described as a halilapu, a Hawaiian word meaning ghost house. The article claimed that the home would likely fall under the interest of paranormal researchers if it were located on the mainland, due to the number of strange and unexplained events tied to it. These stories came from many different people and were not passed off as silly or made up. The article described the palace as a place where unexplained footsteps echoed through the halls every evening and deep into the night. Visitors who stayed even briefly spoke of hearing furniture being moved, chairs scraping across the wooden floors, and the sound of heavy trunks being dragged through the rooms, even though nothing was ever out of place. Some guests felt uneasy almost as soon as they crossed the threshold. Others described feeling watched, even when they were alone. A few would later admit to seeing faint figures in the shadows or out of the corner of their eyes. The house's age and history may have explained some of the noises, but not all. There were simply too many reports to be ignored. The outside of the building also added to its haunted appearance during these years. Descriptions from that time painted a picture of an eerie and neglected home. Dusty windows, drooping shutters, and tangled gardens gave it the look of a forgotten mansion. Neighbors began to avoid the place altogether, and few dared to go inside after dark. What made the reports even more unsettling was that many came from people with no history of storytelling or superstition. These were ordinary individuals, workers, caretakers, guests, all experiencing something they couldn't explain. Some said they heard whispers. Others claimed cold air moved through closed rooms, and sometimes, late at night, flickers of light would appear in windows, though the home was without electricity in those days. As time passed, the strange stories did not go away. In fact, they multiplied. The next part of this story will explore some of the most chilling and specific paranormal encounters reported by guests who dared to stay overnight, and what physical signs some of them took away when they left. As the years passed after the Hawaiian government took ownership of Hanayakamalama, more people stepped forward with stories about what they saw or felt inside the house. These stories weren't always whispered or secondhand. Some came from people who stayed in the home overnight, long before it was turned into the museum it is today. What makes these accounts so memorable is that they often included physical signs. Things that could be seen or touched, not just strange feelings or sounds. One man, known at the time as Major Seward, had an experience that was printed in the newspaper not long after it happened. While spending the night in one of the bedrooms, he awoke to see a Hawaiian woman standing in the room. She had a calm, powerful presence. A second figure stood beside her, a woman wearing a veil, who appeared to be attending to her. Seward tried to sit up in bed, but he suddenly felt as if something soft and heavy had been thrown over his head. The next thing he knew, he was being pulled down and held in place. He tried again to sit up. This time, the Hawaiian woman placed her hand on his leg and pushed him down firmly. On the third attempt, the figures disappeared completely. The following morning, when Major Seward went swimming, he noticed a dark mark on his thigh where the ghostly hand had touched him. It wasn't a bruise and it didn't hurt, but it also wouldn't wash off. A friend who saw the mark told him it was known as a spook mark and warned that it might bring bad luck. Within 2 months, Seward was arrested for treason. Many believed this event was connected to his night in the palace. Other stories from that same time speak of ghostly figures appearing in the most unexpected ways. One young woman, staying with her family, slept in the large hall. She woke in the middle of the night to find the disembodied head of a young Hawaiian boy resting on the pillow beside her, and she could see it clearly in the moonlight. The head vanished when she moved. She told others about it the next day, visibly shaken. Another visitor, staying in the home alone, went to sleep in one room, but woke up in a completely different room across the house. He was wrapped tightly in his blanket, almost as if he had been carried there. There was no explanation for how he had moved during the night. He remembered going to sleep peacefully in his bed and waking up confused, feeling like he had been touched or lifted. There were also reports of people seeing and hearing things while wide awake. One guest stayed in a small room with a folding screen. In the calm of night, with no wind or movement in the house, the screen suddenly crashed to the floor. As the guest watched, the screen was dragged across the room by something unseen. These events were never tied to one room or time of year. Some took place in the grand hall, others in bedrooms, and even near the old kitchen. The consistency in these stories was simple. Something inside the house was active. Guests came in expecting a quiet stay and left with memories they never forgot. In the final part of this story, we'll look at how the home was nearly lost to time, and how, even now, its ghostly past continues to show itself in quiet and mysterious ways. By the early 20th century, Queen Emma's summer palace had fallen into disrepair. The once beloved retreat was no longer in use and faced serious threats of demolition. In the year 1916, the land was at risk of being repurposed for military use. That same year, the Daughters of Hawaii, a group formed to preserve the culture and history of the Hawaiian kingdom, stepped in. They obtained permission from the territorial government to restore and maintain the residence, recognizing its deep cultural and historical value. From that point forward, Hanayakamalama became a carefully protected historic site. The Daughters of Hawaii began to gather and display original furnishings, artifacts, and family heirlooms connected to Queen Emma, King Kamehameha IV, and their son. The palace was officially opened to the public as a museum in the year 1930. However, even with its transformation into a cultural institution, the strange reports did not stop. In fact, some of the museum's own caretakers began documenting eerie experiences. One museum volunteer in the mid-20th century reported that while she was dusting one of the bedrooms, the door suddenly closed behind her with great force. No one else was in the house, and there were no open windows or breezes that day. Another employee reported hearing the sound of footsteps in the main hallway during the early morning hours. When she turned to look, there was no one there, though the sound continued for several seconds as if someone was walking past her. This incident took place during a time when the house was locked and no visitors were present. Tour guides have also described feeling sudden drops in temperature in specific areas of the home, particularly near the koa wood furniture and by the entrance to the main sitting room. At times, the scent of pakaki flowers has filled the air without any flowers present, a smell closely associated with Queen Emma herself. Staff members have described these moments as peaceful, rather than frightening, but always unexplainable. Security personnel have reported motion detectors being triggered at night when the building is empty. In several cases, cameras placed inside the museum caught no sign of movement, even when alarms were activated. These events have occurred multiple times over the years, without technical faults or human explanation. Some visitors have claimed to see a woman in Victorian-era clothing, standing in the shade of the large banyan trees near the entrance to the grounds. She is usually described as graceful, quiet, and dressed in white. When people approach, she fades from sight. Others say they have felt watched while walking alone through the garden paths, especially near sunset. Today, the Queen Emma Summer Palace continues to serve as a public museum. It is visited by tourists, students, and those who simply want to learn about Hawaiian royal history. The Daughters of Hawaii remain its guardians, preserving the home as it was during Queen Emma's time. But even with all the respect and care given to the property, there are still moments, small and sudden, when something unseen makes itself known. While the past is honored and remembered here, it seems that part of it may still be alive. Whether through the sounds of footsteps, the scent of unseen flowers, or glimpses of silent figures in the garden, Hanayakama Lama remains more than a house. For many, it is a place where history breathes, and where the spirit of Queen Emma may still walk.